ever awaken your mind.
Something cooking in the kitchen tonight. Something cooking in the kitchen tonight.
The children's eyes, if I realize a whole generation raised on perpetrating subculture based on a misconception.
He sneak up and throw you for a loop. She peeked up, speak up if you want some more soup.
Mixing some consciousness and some reasoning. Me say a that give the flavor and the seasoning. And if me want to fire lyrics, me get hotter and a better. All me do is add in little pepper.
Welcome, hello and bonjour, everyone out there in the kitchen or outside of it, wherever you might be. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have a very, very, very special podcast, show, interview, discussion with two beautiful souls, conscious couple, modern day mystics, if you will. Brittany and Bryan Easterday, Brittany Ashby, excuse me, and been in connection with them for a couple years, you know, at a distance. You know how these Facebook things are, you know, common friends, common, you know, threads of, you know, interests and things of esoteric sides of reality and shit that we need to just be aware of and implement them into our lives, and getting to know them better. They've really impressed me with a lot of stuff that they've been doing, and in more recent times they've turned it up a few notches and really planting so many seeds in the ground, literally, and also within their homesteading farmland situation that they got going on. And most recently, Brittany and her friend Nikki, her last name?
Nikki Lynn.
Thank you, yeah. Just published a new cookbook called The Anarchist Cookbook. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm not going to drag the show. Yeah, it's so pleasure to have you guys on there. And yeah, I was honored to have a recipe in there, which I did a video on, which is why I wanted to have you guys on ASAP to kind of get that, you know, still cooking while it's hot or digestible.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us on, and thank you for submitting a recipe. I had so many people say, oh, I wish I knew, or I wish I had more time, and I tried to let people know like a month or more in advance, and I just felt like there was lots of time to act, and you were one of the people who did, and it was an awesome looking recipe. I still haven't tried it. We don't have a lot of jackfruit out in the country where we are, but I very much look forward to trying it, and I loved seeing everybody who showed up for the book.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, it was a good turnout for what it was worth, and even you noticed a good balance of male, female participation.
I was really impressed with how many man cooks stepped up. Very impressed. I really thought it would be a ladies' project, and it wasn't at all. It was about 50-50.
Wow. Huh. Thought it was like 30% guys and 70 women, but
you might be right, mathematically speaking. I'm not the strongest person at math, but there were a fair amount of guys. I'll say that. I usually pass the math off to Brian.
Yeah, Brian, what's cracking, brother? Great to finally talk to you. You put out some really great. I didn't really introduce you much, but yeah, you helped. You know, found the Wizard Factory. You've done several great conferences, and you know the Seed Academy with the good old Cubbyhole Cats. You know, Nate Cap and Brandon Martin, and then you've been on the last Funnel conference. You're going to be not on the next one, but the following one.
Yes.
Might as well put a plug in for that guy, because you know how it goes. Yeah, Brian, what is good, brother? You are just so people know. Yeah, if you want to get into your astrology real quick and put a plug in for that, you got to go on with the
Oh
Vedic.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've been, doing a lot like out there, just because I've been busy like with between like the farm and establishing learning about the PMAs and how to establish those, and just working and other things. But I'm getting ready to put some more stuff out on the astrology channel. So if you guys want to check that out, you can go to on YouTube or Odyssey. It's Eye of the Storm Astrology. And I'll be putting things out on there, and then I'll also be putting out some other information like on other areas, like I said, which kind of ties in with that last presentation I did with the last panel conference in regards to like people being able to like use the Constitution, use certain means of being able to establish more security for themselves. In our case, like we use it for our homestead, which allows us to do different things outside of government jurisdiction and everything. And that's very helpful in our case. So, but it's been a process learning about this. So I'll be putting out information about that as well here soon to kind of help people, take further steps towards getting more freedom in their lives.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I really liked your other presentation, like the year prior or the conference prior of how Vedic astrology ties in with natural law. It was like,
yes, yeah, it's a study of natural law.
Such a good presentation.
I've
just been trying to be so respectful of him. He is my hermit. Like, the only reason why he's even been in front of the camera is to share the information. But he is, happy to do his own thing. And I've just been wanting to respect him and let him come out as he feels ready or drawn to do so. And yes, I'm so glad you watched that presentation of his. I thought it was brilliant. He has been probably my #1 Vedic astrology teacher. There's a lot of people I like to learn from, but I'm his lady and I live with him, so I get to like brain dump and ask questions whenever I want. So, and I'm happy that you watched that presentation because it was such a good one at showing the interconnectedness of natural law in this field. A lot of people think astrology is just woo-woo. No, Vedic has like thousands of years of science backing it up. It's not just theory. It's theory that's been proven. And I guess I'll stop because I'm just as passionate about astrology as he is.
Yeah, we could get into that all week long for sure. But sorry.
Love that picture. That has been coming up so much.
I snagged it from your photo album.
I keep seeing it everywhere now, though. Yeah, so like I went and I found that picture and shared it on a post. And it keeps just coming up to me, the lotus and the interconnectedness of everything. So it's just
this one.
Another beautiful synchronicity.
Okay, cool. I added a little color on the top and bottom, but
Yeah, it looks more golden, but it's pretty.
Cheers. This is almost, it's a little reminiscent of the outline of Vedic, but not at all. And I showed the Western version earlier, but all right, back to the food because we can get distracted so easily because there's so many juicy topics out there, and y'all got to
reel it back in.
I love it. It's like we're gonna get y'all on soon enough on our good old Dissolving the Divide. Yeah. But as far as food, so back to the cookbook, what was the whole inspiration? I mean, I kind of know, but for the listeners out there, ideas about all that and motivation, and between two women trying to make that happen and having it for free also.
So Nikki and I actually got connected whenever The Anarchists was viewing on HBO. We're both on homesteads. We don't really do TV a whole lot. We don't have like main TV. And so we were looking for other ways to view it. And that's how we got connected. And I, at some point, made a post mentioning that I wanted to write a book. And she shared her idea for another, like a food version of an anarchist cookbook. And I'm aware of the first anarchist cookbook. So I had to make a pun and say that it sounded like it would be the bomb. And that just kind of blossomed to where we thought it would be funny. And I told her, I'm like, hey, if you want to run with that idea, I'll back you up on that. And And she said, no, I'm serious. So I said, all right, I'm seriously putting it on my calendar and I'll message you after the new year. And so I did. And it was just kind of a stepping stone process. It was kind of slow at first, but once she kind of started it. And then once I got in there and I got my stuff cleared out the way to where I could focus on the book, it was just like a laser beam. You know, I was just so inspired by what she did. And vice versa. She was just as fueled. And we just, it was such an incredible experience for me to work with somebody, especially somebody that I didn't know super, super well, because I felt like I was working backwards. I feel like normally I would get to know somebody and then make a choice like that. And it wasn't like that at all. It was like hey, we have this idea, let's try it. And it just turned out to be so fun. We ended up working great together. When we were ready to take in more recipes, we did. And well, you got to be a part of that. And that's when we started getting more public about it. We did a lot of the base work. We set up a lot of the basics. And then when we took in recipes, we worked together to get them in there. And it's just been a blast, honestly.
Totally. Wait, so you guys have never met in person?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, actually, this was
awesome.
just
Wow.
a Facebook call. We've never met in person.
Yeah.
It was just something where we had this idea. And you know, this happens all the time. You know, you make connections with people online, but how many people actually follow through? And so when she was serious about it, I don't know. I have a bunch of planets in Capricorn. I'm a serious person too. So
yeah, okay, yeah.
We just both were serious about this thing, and we both put our focus towards it. And yeah, so it was kind of surprising. I didn't have any expectations. I just went with it, and it grew to be more awesome than I could have hoped for.
Yeah, totally. I like the outlay, the inserts of quotes and cool photos and the aesthetics. It's a cool flowing book as well. It's not boring. And
yes.
I like the puns, of course, you know.
That was a lot of fun. Like, honestly, like I had some puns and stuff, but where I would like brain fart and fizzle out, I would just let her know, like, hey, I worked up to this point. And then she would go in and like see what I did and feel inspired, and where I fizzled out, she would like go in and like the killer sides, you know. That was one where I was like, I can't think of anything. I was opening up the art of war, like, I need some more words. I'm not that militarized. I'm not that strategic. So I'm looking for things for inspiration. And really, it was really great to have a partner and somebody in it who could, you know, if I was feeling tuckered out, she just kind of like felt inspired and stepped in there. And it was a ton of fun. Yeah,
it's great. It really keeps the flow away from the ebbs or whatever, right? So
yeah. I guess when it slows down, it's a good way to keep it going. It definitely showed me the power of like a team and teamwork. I've always kind of like wanted that sense of community and stuff, and that has also for me kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. But it was a really cool project.
Fuck yeah. What was the hardest thing about making it, really, you think?
Oh, that's a really good question that I didn't really think of.
Neither did I until the second. Honestly, I didn't write it down or nothing, buddy. Unlike the easier ones I asked. We can come back to that if something comes to mind. But as far as like,
well,
sure, go for it.
It wasn't necessarily hard. Like I guess the thing that for me personally would have been hardest would be working with someone before probably would have been my answer. But it wasn't. I guess, you know, the hardest part may have just been coordinating and making time. But honestly, it wasn't even hard because I didn't try to like force anything. We really didn't try to force anything, you know. It was just, okay, well, we have this goal. We want it out by this point. Okay, like no pressure. Let's just do our best to put time and focus towards there when we can. And it just kind of naturally aligned. I'll say the hardest part now would be like converting it. Maybe she's done a lot of the helping to compress it and convert it. So for me, that was the hardest
or something or what?
That Okay, on paper, I would say yes, only because I don't 100% know it yet to know all of what goes into it. And because she's kind of doing that. But kind of, yeah. You need to get it in a PDF format, and then you can upload it to certain sites. Now there's print-on-demand sites. So nowadays, you don't even need to print out 1,500 books and have somewhere to store them. You can just upload a PDF, and as long as it'll convert onto a book, you know, anybody who buys, it can just print and ship from there. So it's a lot more simple.
Yeah.
But it's still something to learn. So actually organizing things might be my response. Organizing things and getting it together enough to do it. Yeah.
And that I'm really glad you mentioned all that, of just how wonderfully unraveling it was, and you know, the communication and cooperation between you and Nikki reminds me that, hey, that's the essence of voluntarism, if you will.
Yes.
And that is anarchy. It's just the absence of rulers and coercion and being under duress from, you know, some false authority folks and whatever rubriment and all that stuff. So yeah, I should have put a caveat from the beginning, like anyone who gets confused with the anarchist word, you have to understand what it means and to go back to etymology, if you will, with the whole Latin origins, and meaning the absence of, and archon meaning a master of a, you know, controlling authoritative figure, something that really doesn't exist in the cosmos. If we're getting back to basics of cosmic law, natural law, universal law, all that good stuff. So that's just, you know, to set the record straight. We're all about, you know, freedom and, you know, Freedom Lovers Pizza. Is there a recipe for that, by the way?
Maybe not for that, but there are some really good breads in there.
Yeah, totally. And people can just run with those ideas of, you know, like, I've been slacking on how to master making just simple dough and this and that. Of course, like flour, water, and blah, you know, like little baking powder or something, yeast, whatever, and voila. But yeah, obviously getting the proportions right. I love to eyeball things all the time, but that's a different science a little bit. As far as like any advice you would give to future readers of this book, like what's the best way to navigate, or just flip around?
Yeah. Well, I guess to future readers, my advice would be to try some recipes. Give them a shot. Like, they're really good. A lot of the ones that I specifically put in there are meant to be simple, very easily, you know, you can mix in different flavors. So, yeah, my advice is to try some recipes because you should like them. And then let those recipes inspire you to make something of your own.
Yeah, great answer. I like that. And it's funny because I'm laughing to myself. I'm like the anti-recipe guy, because like with my thing, I'm like, oh, you can do this, but you know, you can substitute that for that or whatever. And it's like I never follow the same recipe over and over and over again, usually, anyways. But you know, it's all free will and creativity, and to each their own in their own main. But,
I actually cook very much the same way, but I wanted to do a cookbook someday anyways of my own, and so this one just kind of made me get specific, because I'm also a big freehander in the kitchen, and I like to cook in my own way, and I kind of had to think about how would I articulate that to people. But when I was first starting to learn to cook, I would look at recipes and I would look at the measurements of whatever was in the recipe. And a lot of things worked in teaspoons and in tablespoons. And so just by pattern recognition and observing certain things like that, I was able to kind of bring that into my own cooking. And then I did have to actually try to get a little bit specific to communicate to people, but it kind of was a fun challenge for me to get out of my comfort zone, to get more specific and clear, and then try to share that with others.
Totally. And Brian, what do you think about the book?
Oh, they did a great job on it. No, it's a great cookbook. I like that they're having being able to put that out there as a free resource for people, and that, you know, it's just a bunch of. I think it's a good way to reframe anarchy, you know, versus like where the original cookbook, you know, is maybe more of the negative associations of what we want. Where it's like this is just people voluntarily coming together to to create a project and everything. And no, she worked really hard on it. They did a great job.
Fuck yeah. You made me laugh. I was just thinking, like, you know, some people might, you know, have no idea what anarchy is. They follow the television or propaganda programming, and they're gonna be like, the anarchist cookbook, and they're like imagining food fights in the kitchen or some shit, or like
That's so funny. Yeah, hopefully I'm hoping that the cookbook can be something lighthearted. Like, it's been so important for me to learn how to laugh at things and to see things not so horribly. And we really tried to make it punny, a play on words. Yeah. I know that the author, when at the end of his life, he really kind of regretted the book. He regretted the Anarchist Cookbook. And so I think we tried to take some of the good things that he shared in his specific quotes and yeah, show him, I guess, a more voluntarist perspective. Like, anarchy doesn't have to mean violence. It can if somebody's trying to violate your rights and violate your freedom. But if not, you know, it can really just be a harmonious thing.
Right, and you're talking about self-defense, which is basically just using force, because you're not violating another person.
Is the initial violation of
boom, yeah.
Which would distinguish that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so, wow, please, because I'm not familiar with the original author and the original book, but as far as, like, some of the negative aspects of that, you know, what was that, and what were you trying to redeem with that?
Well, with the original, the original Anarchist Cookbook essentially being, a manual for being able to make, whether it's like different explosives or things like that.
Oh wow, okay.
That's where all the puns come from. So it was more of like a cookbook for how to wage guerrilla warfare for other means of that, how to disrupt the system, but in maybe not such well accepted ways type of thing. So them taking it and reframing it into just making a play on, like, in turn turning it into actual cookbook of just recipes and stuff, and then
making it a playful approach.
That's a much better way to
yeah, totally. And I swear you wrote about that. I might have just skipped something that you read when I was reading or something, but wow, okay, yeah, that puts better context on the
Makes
whole
a little
thing.
more sense now, right? Yeah.
That was so funny. Yes, thank you. Fuck yeah, guys. What were some of the recipes that were really kind of standoutish for you, or like, oh shit, I got to try that kind of like first or whatever, or even
for
some
me,
of the ones that you submitted even.
Yeah. Did you say something for a minute? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, something that you is there anything fermented? I think there is, but
fermented. Okay, I just didn't hear that. There is fermented garlic in there.
Yes, that's true.
I do have a jar of that brewing. That was one that Nikki shared, though, and then fire cider. That was one I've always wanted to try, so I was so happy that she shared that recipe. It's supposed to be a phenomenal holistic healer.
Yeah,
and then,
I make that.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then for me, pastas. Like pastas and breads, Derica Klaus really stepped up and shared like so many breads and pastas.
Cool.
And for a long time, I was kind of avoidant of like pastas and carbohydrates. And I don't know, I guess I kind of thought, I don't know, I just had some funny, weird vegan programming coming from the carb stuff, to where like, oh, like breads, pastas, it has to be a natural carbohydrate. So like that stuff I'm still kind of getting over, and her recipes really kind of inspired me to want to try some of that here. I haven't yet, but I would love to try some homemade pasta a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe some raviolis, because we do like raviolis when we get those.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh la la. Yeah, that's because I'm always interested to hear what people have to say in regards to the carbs and the gluten and all this stuff, and this whole rise in gluten-free, expensive-ass alternative stuff. But for me, like, just going back to the roots of it, I mean, what happened literally, like sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of times with a lot of this industrialization of these things, they remove the wheat germ from the wheat. And so you have this incomplete grain that our body is not necessarily used to digesting it, you know, not at its wholeness, right? So were anything along those lines that you've come across or experienced or learned about?
We were just having, honestly, like, health issues. And I have kind of learned some things. I kind of learned something similar where, like, long ago, we used to, like, soak our grains. So that has made the digestive, you know, process a little bit easier on the body back then. I really don't have enough experience or knowledge to speak from, as far as, like, yeah, I just don't have the experience, but it's something that I would like to look into more. I'm not so afraid of carbs anymore. I am learning to love carbs.
Right on.
But yeah, I would like to do it, you know, as healthy as we can. But at this point, I'm just happy to get some nutrition in us, and I'll probably need to keep refining what I learn about food.
Yeah, it's something everyone should be having in their mental field of things, and how we're shifting behavior towards something a little bit more healthier and listening to our bodies a little bit more and our stomachs, and realizing that gut-brain connection is so misunderstood and underestimated, right?
Yeah.
Anything you guys have learned about that? And like,
about
going back
gut
to
health
fermented
and
foods,
brain health connection.
yeah, and like keeping a healthy gut flora, you know, the balanced bacteria, not over candida type of thing. And
so I'll just be honest, like the diet health type of stuff is really a lot more her I'm not less picky on that stuff. Like I like growing my own food, like raising stuff, but you know, it's just not that big of an area of like interest for me, beyond like just knowing that I can produce like my own quality food myself. But as far, you know, I mean, if you want to get into research and studies, I mean, there's a million studies that all say a different thing, no matter what side you want to be in. Personally, like,
totally,
I just want to live my life, and you know, if I'll go off of what my body feels, and with that, you know, I kind of keep it at that, you know.
Those are the answers I love, though, you know. And but yeah, there's so many distractions out there, and like, oh, it's so arbitrary with whatever, and there's so many different body types out there, and between male and female, and you know, you have ex-vegans or ex-carnists or whatever, and it's all over the map. And yeah, what's the deal with the imbalance of people, and also just taking it back to the first cosmic law of just like people's state of mind? And I don't know about you guys, but I've fasted for well over 100 days of my life, and what I've noticed is that it's really shifted my way to master my behavior based on if I have an empty or full stomach, in a sense. And like having more appreciation for the food, because you know, I wasn't eating it for 3 weeks sometimes. And then like being mindful of, and like you can feel different effects that your body has towards different foods when it's like an empty vessel, and then you reintroduce it, type of thing. So it's really interesting that. And but yeah, it's like to each their own. We see so much stuff even within the truth community or whatever, you know, social media echo chamber, whatever the hell, of people bickering about what they eat, you know, and like even like vegans against vegans. Like I've had someone say like, hey, I'm not vegan enough, man. I'm shit.
I know.
Like, whatever, you know.
You get it anywhere, and I have looked into a little bit of like gut health, and yeah, that's kind of some of my area, but kind of like what Brian, you know, was saying, and you were saying with just letting people eat what they eat. Like I've got some carrots fermenting, and I am just like so hopeful that I'm going to find a fermented food that he likes. But he doesn't like strong flavors, anything vinegary, sour. When he's sick, he will get over it and drink apple cider vinegar, but that's just because he feels like shit and he wants to feel better. And it helps.
I get it.
But he's not gonna like go slide some apple cider vinegar in his water. In fact, he'll like go to grab mine and smell it and be like, okay, that's I'm not having any of that.
Why would I want that?
So I'll be happy if I can get a healthy fermented food in him, but it'll basically be on consent, because if he don't like the smell or the taste, it'll only go in him when he's sick, and that's it. So like I'm learning to let go of control. I want to live as long as I can. I want to be as old as I can ever, like as old as I can be. And I used to feel very much the opposite. In fact, I planned on going out as soon as like my kid was 20, my oldest. And then I had another one. So like now I can't go anywhere, even if I wanted to entertain that potential. But now I just feel the opposite. Now I just feel really inspired to live. Like I feel like I have such purpose here. Like I feel like I have to take care of my body as best as I can, because I have a job here, I have a purpose, I have a mission, and I can't do that if I'm in the grave. So like I'm really motivated to live as healthy as I can, as best as I can. He's happy to eat whatever, and I'm happy to try to see if he'll eat some fermented carrots. But I'll respect his journey and what he wants to eat, but I'll try to slide in that stuff that I learn about when I can. And if he likes it, awesome. If not, dang it, I'm on to the next mission of finding something else.
Hey, that's no worries at all. And at the same time, there's some probiotics that help out
it's so good for you.
Yeah, and those will balance in favor of the gut flora bacteria anyways. It's not just about the fermented foods and this and that.
Right. It's the probiotics.
I don't know if you're down with that booch.
The kombucha, yes, it's a fermented beverage. The kombucha, he doesn't like it.
I feel you.
I think he's like one flavor, and it was like the fruitiest thing. It didn't even taste fermented. I think it was lying. It said it was fermented, but it tasted more like a juice. Because, you know, like a real fermented thing, it's kind of like, ugh. Like I had to make myself drink that stuff. But I can do that. I'll do that. If it's healthy and it's good for me and it tastes like crap, all right. Like it might take me a couple but I can get through it if I have to. If I have to, yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. And I still love kombucha, but now I'm like tasting it. It's like, dude, there's something off with these flavors, or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But anyways, so I would like to ask you guys, like, so what do you think the root cause of the divisiveness of, you know, vegan versus whatever, vegetarian versus whatever, meat consuming versus whatever, like, what is that stemming from exactly, you think?
I think you want to go ahead.
I'll let you go first.
Kind of a desire to control other people personally. You know, because I like, as somebody who wants the best for other people, if I could have it my way, I'd like to just, hey, you know, everybody's just, you know, go do the best, you know, that you can for yourself. And I wish it was that easy, but that'd be super narcissistic to think that my way is the only way. And so I think a lot of the times, like as a vegan, like we want to go, we want the best for people, but we go about it through a place of trying to control them and not taking hints of like, hey, no thanks, or just outright violating people when they're like, I don't want that information. And they're like, too bad, vegan card, you know? So that's just my thought. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or what were you going to say?
If we're wanting to look at the root cause of it, I would say the root cause of it is the same as it is with many other things, that whenever people come across an idea or a belief, that they then feel the need to personally identify that with their sense of self and their ego. And when that happens, it becomes, they start defending that idea as if it was themselves. Because for the idea to be wrong, or for the idea to be attacked, they feel like it is a direct attack on themselves or their ego.
That's true.
And so their sense of self then feels threatened. I was vegan for years. and ended up going, you know, where we're now, like I said, we do our own pasture raised livestock and stuff. I process my own meat. You know, I've got a 300-pound hog in the cooler right now hanging up, you know, that I'll be turning into bacon here in like a week. I've come to find a more balanced perspective with diet and seeing, you know, being willing to, like, even though, yes, I've had this belief or whatever, but where was I using that to build up my ego or my identity in such a way that I was trying to make other people seem like they were immoral just for having a different lifestyle than me. And then realistically, I also saw like the detriment to like my health over a period of years. It wasn't just like a few years I was vegan for a while, you know, and vegetarian before that. And it just wasn't, I didn't feel the most ideal with it. And then whenever I did start eating meat again, with our own like consciously raised meat, like we, you know, and we're not just like raising our meat in any means, you know, we rotationally graze it around, like we do it in a very ethical way. And I do the whole processing myself, like whether that animal is like being born or like through its whole life, through taking we do the whole thing ourselves. And for me, like coming to a place of what I see as a more balanced place to diet is like, I'm not taking the perspective of like, oh, I can't eat any animal products. No, I can eat animal products, but that doesn't mean I'm excluding like fruits and veggies and like I can eat that too. So like if I can choose from both, to me, like that seems like a little bit more of like a balanced, rational place to like approach diet from. And I don't feel like stuck on either side with it. You know, like I fucking love fruits and veggies, but I also really like the bacon that we make. Like,
Word, yeah.
You know, so it's you know, I just get to enjoy good food now without having to try to like identify my morals and my philosophy just solely based off of like my diet and like my value as a human being, or whether or not I'm a good person based off of what I'm eating. Like, you know, like Brittany mentioned, like we have a dharma and we have a purpose here. Part of that is like taking care of your vessel. So if you're having a diet where you notice like your vessel is suffering because of that, like I ended up getting like Lyme's disease, and veganism was like not working. It
would trigger the worst.
Not working with that me. Like when they would hit me, it would really like wipe me out for a long period of time. And since I started eating meat again, I have not had an issue with it, really. Like, you know,
that's cool.
It made a big difference. So if I feel healthier and happier, then I don't, you know, I think that's kind of where we need to be so we can actually do the things we're supposed to do.
Yeah, every individual needs to figure that out for themselves so they can be at that optimal level, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if a vegan diet works for someone, hey, great, good for them. But that doesn't mean like everybody else is like an immoral, sinful person just because they're fucking eating something different. Like, no, like
you
know.
I mean, and epigenetically speaking, some people's bodies might even be more prone to being receptive to a vegan diet. We all have different needs, and ultimately, I think it's best if we all just choose for ourselves. So, what we think we should eat, and how that makes us feel. How does that land here?
Yeah, and I love how we're gonna get in. I can't wait to jump into like talking about how you guys are living out there with, you know, the process. Just to continue on this thread real quick, was there anything else you wanted to mention with that, Brittany?
Not necessarily, because
you were vegan for a long time, and I'm interested as like, you know, what complications did you have, and especially because I'm gonna say just real quick. On my side, what I noticed is, you know, when I went full vegetarian vegan, it was my wife that initiated that, but she wasn't even trying to go full anything. She just wanted to have vegetarian meals every night. And even that, apparently, like, it was enough to trigger a decline or a deficiency in iron. And especially for females with the menstruation cycle and that loss of blood and all that stuff. So did you notice any complications with that? You know, or just like anything in general, you know, like
later on I did. So I actually just heard this recently. So I'm not going to pretend like I was the perfect vegan, but I was a vegan who got all the expensive supplements. I was the vegan who had the B12, had the kelp stuff, you know, I did the best that I could. but I did recently hear that Mark Passio had mentioned that anybody who's been vegan long-term juices, essentially. Well, I was never huge on juicing, but I did do smoothies for a very long time, and that was a very regular part of my routine until at one point I just couldn't afford the fresh produce all the time. And it was good for a long time, but I would say probably about year 5. And I later learned about phytates and beans and stuff like that. But by about year 5, my body just started almost rejecting plant-based proteins. Almost every protein that I ate, except maybe mushrooms, would cause me excruciating pain. Like severe pains, to where I started just choosing like not to eat. I would almost, just be happier. Like I would rather just like drink liquids and do what I can. And I was just in severe pain. And then I was also having some decline in like the strength of my teeth. My youngest, I was vegan. I actually had no problem getting pregnant. I've always been extremely fertile, vegan or not. Yeah, and I was able to get pregnant. I had all the blood tests, and according to their tests, my blood work was flawless. But my youngest, after she was born, her teeth started whittling away and just deteriorating. And it could have been due to an antibiotic that I was put on around the development of her teeth when it started developing in the womb. There is that potential, but I was also on a vegan diet.
Blaine had the same issue.
And Blaine, that's right. So Brian has a son who's actually like 2 weeks older than Ostara, my youngest. So they're like twins, but not twins. Their astrology charts are very, very similar. Well, I know it's kind of funny, and
It's really interesting. Yeah.
getting them together is a hoot, and I could rant on and go all over about them too, but they both had the same teeth issues, and his ex was not 100% vegan.
Yeah, she was when she was pregnant.
Oh, she was when she was pregnant. Okay, that's right. Well, I guess she was vegan. We both breastfed.
Yeah. So
and
Blake,
when they were,
my ex was
wow, fuck.
We were vegan whenever he was like conceived and everything, and she was vegan probably until about like a year after he was born or something like that. But yeah, both kids were breastfed, but and then they both ended up with like similar issues. Like,
their teeth just started like breaking away. It was at minimum 10 teeth.
Yeah,
each.
And when we were, so we had like some pretty expensive surgeries, for like the kids, and then just seeing, that like, okay, so even with like regular dental care, like them brushing 2, 3, 4 times a day, like whatever it was.
They loved it. It was fun for them. And still didn't matter.
What we noticed is whenever we did switch back to animal products, all the teeth issues resolved themselves.
I was just told that
resolved themselves. My Lyme's disease, like pretty much like to where I don't, if I do have like a flare up, it might have me down for like a day or so, but when I was vegan, it would take me out for like
over
a week or time. At once where
he'd be in bed like all day.
I couldn't even get up.
Oh man, that's so debilitating. That must
and so
you can't live like I can't run a farm like that. I can't take care of my family like that. So it's just I raise my own food now. That's just
and at least with my youngest, I was told by the dentist,
brother. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then my youngest, her decay stopped. She still has a hole from a cavity. And
so the nightmare was over. Holy shit. Like, wow.
I was just told this, like 2 months ago, whenever we went to the dentist, that the decay stopped. And all we've been doing for the last year, besides before we started harvesting our meat, we were still getting meat from the store. But we've just been raising.
No, just kidding.
We just been doing animal fats, instead of that was the thing. I guess I was just digging back into this book.
With that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just redigging back into this book, but apparently the animal fats and the type of fats and nutrients helps our bodies to absorb different nutrients. So since having those, our kids' teeth, all of our teeth have stopped being so problematic. My digestion issues have pretty much cleared up. I mean, they used to be pretty excruciating, and yeah, your Lyme, you really haven't had Lyme flare-ups. Like, you would get them, you were getting them pretty regularly when we were still vegan.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that's crazy, man. I've been vegan for like 5 years or something more, and I've been all right. I reversed my eczema issues for the most part.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, what I noticed for me, like, it was like chicken products and dairy products would trigger skin inflammation for me pretty easily.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I juice a shitload, and I pretty much, I don't have breakfast. I'll drink some juice or mix some juice in a smoothie and have that as lunch for the most part, or not, you know. And then I'll have like a meal or two a day. That's basically it.
Well, I'm glad you're able to find something that works for you, really. I mean, I was vegan for a long time, and it was fine for me. It wasn't until towards the end where I really started having complications, and my youngest, it just made me start questioning how right is this? You know, it's one thing to take myself down and my own health down and to suffer from that, but when my child, you know, is experiencing things, I was just at a point where, like, there's no more time for trial and error. Try this, try that. No, like, it was no more airy fairy bullshit. This is something I know for a fact I can try, and it's just at the store, you know. So I did, and it's been a lot smoother sailing.
That's great, yo. Wow, that's so interesting. And just out of curiosity, because I'm always curious with other women, when you were vegan, you had no like iron deficiency or anything, but some other issues.
Yeah, it was digestion.
Like the teeth thing, that's something that crossed my mind. I was like, am I eating enough carrots sometimes? Like,
I don't know. I mean, my blood work was good when I was when I was at least pregnant. That was back in, I don't know. I guess I should pay attention to how long I've been eating meat again, because time is flying. But yeah, it was good then. What was that? You were saying something?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but
you're fine.
Yeah, my good friend Maria West. I think you know her. A long time ago, when she was vegan for over a dozen years, she was pregnant and she had a miscarriage of twins.
Yeah.
And then later on, she realized that, you know, her body type and the Ayurvedic system, there's like the Vata and the Pitta, and I think there's something else, right?
Yeah, Vata, Pitta. Yeah, there's the different essences, like that, and depending on like your different placements, you'll have, you know, more of some than others. So based off your body type, they'll do that. And there's different, you know, different diets work differently for different people. We all have different ancestral things. Like people who are ancestry from areas that are, you know, closer to the equator, more tropical areas, are going to have an easier time with a vegan diet, you know, more fruit-based, fruitarian type of diet.
More culturally diverse diets.
People
in
who
their
are
genetics.
from, like, you know,
avocados,
northern European places, or places where you don't have fruit growing year round because there's, you know, 5 months of winter.
Yeah,
like Norway.
Those people like
Germany,
are more inclined to eat like cheeses and meats and, you know, fishes and those types of things, and that's what's good. You know, that's what's good for them. So, you know, like I said, I think what it is like going about like producing your food consciously, because whether you're just because you're only eating plants doesn't mean your food's being produced in a conscious way. Like you know, we're surrounded by thousands of acres of monoculture crops that produce soy and corn and all that stuff that vegans eat that are still sprayed with pesticides. They still massacre any creature in that field. There's no ecosystems, and there's a whole lot more ecosystem going on in my pasture where we rotate our animals through, and we increase diversity and we increase biomass and organic matter in the soil. So how your food's being produced, no matter whether you're going for a vegan diet or you're incorporating animal products, doing it in a conscious way is what matters. You know, like we don't support the CAFO operations, like the big meat operations. those are terrible. Like we think animals should be out on pasture, being moved around, being rotated, and doing
living as naturally as they can.
Like, it's biomimicry. You're mimicking like the ecosystem, especially for example, like here in North America. The reason why it was so prolific in the amount of abundance that it produced was because of the amount of livestock, specifically like ruminant animals, large herds of ruminant animals that could move around, leaving millions of tons of fertilizer everywhere they went, and then rotationally moving around season through season, year after year. Well, in our modern society, you can't mimic it on that scale, but what you can do is mimic that same concept with your own. So we just control our animals like with poly braid and electric fence, and then we move them around from paddock to paddock. And it has the exact same effect. You just do it in a controlled way.
Fuck yeah. And I'm sure you guys have heard of compost tea, which is not...
Yeah.
It's like a manure-based fertilizer, though.
Yeah, I used to make compost tea for my plants when I ran like a medical grow out in California for a long time. So, and I raised my own rabbits and things for that. So I would make my own compost teas for my plants and things like that. And, good stuff. Plants love it. The more it stinks, the more they like it.
Right. Yeah. Real talk. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of, terms going on. There's, permaculture, monoculture, aquaculture, a combination of both, and all these fusions. And yeah, like, and then there's like vegan like style, and I haven't looked into enough of it to see how all that works. Maybe things work for certain people or in certain environments, and that's such a great point that you made up earlier, Brian, of certain local environments matter so much. And I know that vegans get a bad rap because they're into the globalism sometimes, and they need their papayas from South America and all this stuff, and it's not necessarily the case, but it's funny how people tie all that stuff in. And I know like folks like Alex Jones and info whores have been trying to run their lips about that to a degree, but yeah, it's so important for people to consider like their local environment. Like, do you guys watch? I don't think you guys even have a TV, but there's like
we have one. It's just hooked up to a DVD player.
And that's it.
And that's all.
It's for the kids,
Yeah, there's like a Norwegian cooking show that I watch with my dad sometimes. It's like one of the few things that I'll actually watch. But and this guy's really interesting. He's always outdoors. He's always cooking like on a wood fire. He uses the elements as well. He's smoking fish with like juniper berries and like some of the branches and all this stuff. It's like really, really cool. And for me who like I'm against animal cruelty, but at the same time, it's like people got to do what they got to do and sustain their life force energy. Fuck it. Well, now we can get to that level of where people are going to be more like Hyperboreans and breatharians and shit. But guess what? Like those people are only going to exist more towards the equator, where there's more sun, where they can do the sun gazing and get that source energy because they've been able to bypass whatever assimilation through whatever, I've fasted for 33 days of my life, and I've kind of like gone into those trances of like, okay, I can kind of understand where these folks are getting at, but like as a collective, we're not even fucking close to there at all. So people need to chill the fuck out on like attacking others based on what the fuck they're eating. We can all kind of like have compassion and guide people towards a way of being way more sustainable like you guys, and that's what's up. And this is such a great example for others to get into, and it is kind of going back to the ancient future of with the new modern twist, if you will. But I kind of like look back at the Native Americans. They might not have been farming, but they're still holistically harvesting the meat and kind of having
and that's the thing is with most depending on the tribe too, like
True that.
Most native tribes, they actually had a mixture of farming and hunting and gathering, like, you know, so they did cultivate crops. You know, they taught us to cultivate crops when we came here as Europeans. You know, the squash, beans, corn, the Three Sisters is definitely something from the natives. But, you know, certain tribes, like the more, you know, Central Plains tribes, you know, the Sioux, the Cherokee, things like that, they spent more time following the buffalo, the elk herds, and things like that. So they need more red meat in their diet, you know. So even within that, you know, it's variety. But yeah, I think especially in the modern society, you know, especially people who, you know, may just have been stuck in a city their whole life. They're very disconnected from where their food comes from, and making your dietary decisions when you don't actually know how any of the food is produced, and then taking a moral standpoint because of it.
That was something I learned later.
Is something a little different. Whereas, like, if you were to look at our ancestors who were you know, doing what they needed to survive, you see that, like, no, it's very natural to go hunting and eat something if you don't find something else. It's very, you know, there's a reason there's cave paintings of hunting scenes, you know. You know, this is something that's been around for a very long time, and like I said, just doing it, observing how nature works, and then trying to do it in the most conscious way and improve upon it. So, like, how we look at it, for example, like with our sheep, right? Sheep are essentially like little meat popsicles. They have no defense. As soon as a predator comes up, they'll just like lay down and give up. And
they
like,
give up.
It's my time, and I'm just going.
They just
like,
submit.
You know, like
it's pathetic, honestly.
You know,
it's like, man, don't just give up like that.
It's just
hence the metaphor, though. You know,
no, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. But,
that's true.
So we look at it as like, you know, our sheep out in the wild. Not only would they have to, you know, find everything for themselves. That includes like being able to find like quality water, feed. They have to worry about predators. They have to worry about disease. If their hoofs if they get hoof rot or something like that, then that animal just, you know, through nature, like that animal will just, it can just suffer, you know, and the way it's going to die is either going to be from old age, an injury, a disease, a predator, something that, you know, more than likely it ain't just going to lay down and go to fucking sleep, and it's going to be like a nice little, you know, there's probably going to be something a little bit, you know, less pleasant. With our livestock, we care from them, like from the day they're born. Like, we watch them, we protect them. We have guardian dogs out there that, like, we take care of the guardian dogs, and the guardian dogs live with them. We make sure they have. They make sure they have like fresh forage. Like, we know, like, I can look out at a pasture and see, oh, I have this many days of food in there, so they don't run out of food. I make sure they have clean, quality water. If they have any medical issues, we take care of those. Like, if they're, you know, they have one very quick bad day, and I'm a good shot, so it's real quick, and they don't. I make it a very quick process, like, to win that, and the rest of their life is lived essentially not having to worry about anything, you know. Like, we really set them up like with a good life, you know.
We do. And something else that I never hear anybody talk about, but it's something we've been very aware of for a long time, are soul contracts. Like, soul contracts are something that we all have, and similar to how I guess maybe we were talking about it with Danny the other day, but how we choose, you know, when we come here, we kind of pre-choose our charts, our lessons, our prominent things, and we think it's the exact same thing with our livestock. They are called livestock. I feel like their soul has a sense of awareness, and that they did before they came here, and so we do our best to kind of be their shepherds, take good care of them, give them the best life that they have while they are with us, and part of that contract is that of food. And you know, it's not the sweetest thing, but karmically speaking, I think that is part of the process. I think that's part of the journey of a soul. I think we all kind of came from one form of consciousness, and we kind of work our way to where we are presently.
Everything decomposes. If you look at nature, I mean, the decomposition, I mean, your body eventually, if it's buried, is going to be go away, and it's going to be fed on by insects and other things. And like, none of those are for doing that. You know, and even in like in death, like we really try to make the meat as high quality as possible. Like when we do our pork, for example, like we take it through the whole process of curing it, like of smoking it. Like I really try to make it as much of a gourmet product as I possibly can. So we're not just like wasting the life for no reason.
So how many recipes are of yours in the book?
I think I just put the one in there.
The one enchilada soup.
Yep. Just the one,
right.
and that one is actually versatile. That was actually
so good.
Yeah, that one's actually.
I saw that.
Vegan or a meat recipe. I actually first came across that when I was vegan. And then eventually, you know, I just updated and added meat in or whatever. But you know, like,
but we still make it vegan all the time. That's because it's just I love the tomato version where you take out the cream cheese. Because I don't know, you made it for me at first without. You made me it vegan, and I just loved it that way, and I just like it that way more than with the cream cheese.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah, that's fun to have in there. Yeah, no, my thing, like with the meats, I'm more like I like the prep, you know, doing like, you know, the processing, the prep. Like I really like smoking the meats and getting those to like, you know, adding the different wood flavors in and getting them, you know, real nice. It's kind of more the area I like to focus on.
And that's like a deep, slow process.
Yeah, so like
smoking and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the cure will do. So first off, like when I process like the pig, for example, I'll let it. We built a walk-in cooler so we can like hang and do all our own processing. So then I'll let it hang. And yeah, I built a walk-in cooler. Like
he's very handy. He does that.
If I want to do something, I can build it, design it, do whatever I need to do. I'm pretty good at figuring things out.
Oh yeah, man.
But we built a walk-in cooler, so it's big enough that I can hang, you know, a few pretty good sized pigs in there. So I'll let them hang for like 3 weeks, and then it gets broke down where the meat gets broke down into like roughly like 5-pound slabs, and then I'll usually use like a salt and brown sugar cure. Then it'll go in like a bag with the cure for a week, you know, and I flip it every day for a week, and then from there it goes into the smoker. And I'll smoke it like 4 to 6 hours from like 200 to 220 degrees. And then from there, it'll go back in the cooler for like a day to chill. And then it gets sliced up and packaged after that.
That's where
so
I
like,
come in.
You know, from the, you know, the whole process is like
a slicer.
The whole process is like a month long process or so from the time I process the pig to the time it's actually like in the freezer ready to go.
Makes you really value it though.
It's work.
Like
it's
it makes you
work,
value like you put in a lot of time and energy. You raise the whole animal and then you love it long after it's gone too, even through the process. And speaking of sold contracts and livestock, our livestock have it good compared to most livestock in all of America, at least.
Say like to play off of that, and I really appreciate, you know, Brian, everything you said was great. And before that, Brittany, I wanted to go back to that, which was awesome as well, of just, the whole idea of livestock. We're live and direct investing in stock, if you will. So so how is that investment? You guys are watering those seeds properly in a sense or whatever. And taking care of all those animals with, you know, the elements around. And that's great that you're able to calculate how much food is available in one plot of land for umpteen, you know, animal. That was fucking awesome.
Pretty much
I totally caught that, man. Like,
gauge it like with my eye.
That's not easy to fucking figure out, man.
It's
you have to do
observation.
You got to try it.
You know, seeing how much, you know, because the way, you know, and with different animals, right? Like the way pigs handle a pasture is different than the way sheep or cattle handle a pasture. They all eat different things. They have different impacts. So just, you know, being conscious and aware of things like your stocking weight and, you know, like how many animal units you have like on
that area,
on a certain, you know, area, and how much forage is in there. And You can start gauging it after a while of experience, but it's good to know. A lot of people think that, oh, you can just put it out there and then, the animal will be there and then the grass is just going to keep growing. And it's just that's not how it works.
No, I've seen videos.
We see that a lot out here. And then they have a dirt plot.
Yeah. And that's how you create like desertification.
So uninspiring, right? Like,
yeah. So like, we
got to move them.
We try to, move them, at least like, once a week, if we can, we try to give them bigger paddocks to where they can have a little bit of time to work it over, but also like, to where we can concentrate their impact of their manure and stuff. So then as we move through, and then every time you keep them in a single paddock versus like letting them out onto your whole piece of land, the whole rest of the land is getting a chance to rest.
Yeah.
So all the species, all the flowers, all those other things that normally would be getting mowed down if they just had access to them.
Yes.
You're giving those a chance to recover, and then and then you're moving them to the next one. So they're just getting to selectively hit certain areas, and then during different seasons, if you rotate them this way this year, the next way you can rotate them around. So you change the way you hit the seasons, and then you increase your biodiversity like that very, very quickly. Like the way
because they stir things up.
The way sheep can
I was gonna say they till the soil all the while.
Yeah, like we have heavy clay soil, like that used to get like really, really heavy and waterbogged, and especially any of your ruminants with like a cloven hoof, they do a really good job of being able to help water start penetrating the soil, because as they move around, without tearing it up, each one of those little hoof marks and those imprints becomes a water pocket. It allows things to penetrate. It's a place where seeds can fall and get penetrated. So like, and they'll start stirring up the seed bank. They'll start like working on the weeds by adding like more manure and things. It increases the level of like
more shit.
Like it increases the level of nutrients there, and then that means you're going to have less weeds. Or what people consider weeds, because those like soils that are kind of devoid of nutrients. So there's so many benefits to having that animal go through there and actually work that. You get a lot more production than if you were to just let that grass go and rest. That grass after a while will actually start like going into like chemically breaking down. Which is a very, very slow process, and it's actually not that great for the soil.
Yeah, it's slower for what you guys want going on, I'm sure.
They're meant to be trimmed by animals, by grays and ruminants animals. When a plant gets like, say, so you have different stages of growth, right? For grass, right? You have like essentially like a youth, a teenager, and an old age. Well, in the teenage phase, this is where it is the most productive. It's growing the fastest. It's putting out the most nutrients and everything. So you want to come in and graze right then, because once it gets above that, it starts getting older and it wants to go to seed. Well, if you come in and graze it off, but don't let it get all the way down, you just graze it off properly, and then you move them around and give it a chance to rest, you can actually lengthen the growing season for that plant, to where instead of just producing that one stalk or that one blade of grass all season, it can produce that same blade over and over and over again throughout the season by actually having proper maintenance done to it. So it's
trimming the hedges naturally.
It's just observing, the relationships between like the animals and the plants, and like I said, from this is one reason why we're animist, and especially like in our diet and things like that, is we really look at it from a more animist perspective, of observing nature. And when you look out in nature, you see that things consume each other.
Yeah.
That's part.
And is it really cruelty? Well, I mean, on one perspective, it could be. Try to do it
in the most conscious way possible.
But eating things is honestly part of the circle of life. A snake is not going to say, hey, does that hurt? Does that feel better? It's going to keep constricting it, or it's going to swallow it whole. It doesn't wait to see if it, if the other thing is happy about becoming food or not. It just is what it is. So we try to be as respectful and compassionate as possible. We do our best to take care of the animals, and then we eat them. And try to be as respectful as we can.
Yeah, and living symbiotically.
Yes.
And allowing them to live symbiotically with nature as well, which is a win-win for everyone.
Right.
I mean, they might lose their life, but as far as
we all die.
I feel like
We all die at some
As
point. We all
somebody-
get consumed. Like that's
Yeah.
the truth of nature. At some point, we all
course,
get
yeah.
consumed.
And we
And they
honestly,
could have been killed off long ago.
This is why I like,
yeah.
you know, in the Vedic philosophy is they understand like the truth of the Trimorty, that there's creation,
circle.
there's preservation, and there's destruction. And if you look in the Gita, you know, and they ask Krishna what he is, the essence of everything is destruction. If you actually look at an ecosystem and you go to study it, an ecosystem that does not have a healthy destructive process where the breaking down of things is slow, the decomposition, that's actually an ecosystem that does not thrive, it does not produce. The faster the decomposition cycle is in the soil with the nutrients, the healthier that entire ecosystem is. So, you know, especially when you understand the principle of mentalism, you understand everything is conscious. The mind is all energy is not destroyed, it's just transformed. So we assist in transition. We try to do that as conscious as possible. You know, we thank that animal for its life, and then we continue to move on, and we continue to try to do it in the best way we possibly can, while also improving the land. And we couldn't be improving the land and the soil and healing our pastures in the way we are without the assistance of that livestock.
and in addition to that,
That's alchemy,
Brian,
as far as, you know, the whole transformation of energy, you know, all these things, and how things are just destructive. I mean, that's the first stage of alchemy. You have to fucking burn that shit.
Yes, exactly. You have to have destruction. Yeah.
Well, and Brian had mentioned our animist perspective. Well, we believe in reincarnation.
Of course.
So, like, when that animal dies, it's not just darkness and blackness.
And they're not going to come back to try to kill you or anything like that, really. But
no, we wish it to its next higher awareness. You know, like I hope.
Yes.
You got a vendetta on your ass, man. No, just kidding.
Yes, like, and so we're not just going to go out.
I remember getting so many hugs from you and all this stuff. Like, wow, like you fed me every fucking day and all that. Like, it's, you know, like for all you vegans out there, I'm sorry that it feels like I'm betraying you or whatever the fuck. But think of an animal out in the wild, and yeah, they might not need hugs or whatever. But if they're on a farm, if they're on, you know, Brian and Brittany's farm, double B,
belly rubs and stuff. Yeah, dude, yeah.
We season them with love.
Yeah,
first
every
and
day.
foremost.
And like gourmet food compared to that bullshit. Fuck that. Like, you know, so I got no qualms with, you know, folks like y'all, or, you know, it's free will in the end. And like, as far as like us coming together to really end suffering of life, you know, it starts with us on the individual level, and then, you know, getting to the macrocosmic level of all this fucking bullshit authority that's, you know, fucking us up or whatever, which is why, you know, going back to the anarchist philosophy of no masters, no slaves, and, you know, so voila. Anything, where are we at? What are really some of the hardest things I mean, like, all right, so because I'm gonna be visiting my friends in France, and they don't have any animals, they don't have a farm, but they live in a hamlet where, you know, there's like apple orchards. They used to make apple cider and all this stuff, like, and they had like this little side building. It's great. And in Brittany, they're famous for apple cider and all this. Yeah, Brittany, France, like La Bretagne, as I pronounce it in French. But yeah, what a coincidence, right, Mrs. Ashby? But
I was actually thinking about how awesome that sounded with the apple cider. We're trying to grow apple trees and keep them safe from our sheep.
Right. So anyways, it's not about all that. I just wanted to say that, you know, I lived with them for a good month or two last year, and they're just trying to, you know, live off the land as much as they can. They grew their garden and all this stuff. They're raising a kid, and just that alone, no animals. It's, you know, nonstop all day, every day. Like, there's fucking hella work to do. And when I was living there, I was fucking loving it. I was helping them out with so much stuff. We were installing rain catchers and all this good stuff, compost things. how are you guys able to maintain a good balance of energy? Because, you know, a lot can take it out of you emotionally, physically, mentally, you know, raising your kids and then, you know, physical labor and all that stuff. It's like 24/7, you know, kind of like, well, you guys get to sleep a little bit, I hope, but you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's not necessarily always the easiest thing to do, I guess, for to be to find balance. Because like I said, I just, I'm not anymore. I just recently like quit the place, but, you know, I was working like 12-hour overnight shifts, at like a plant here in town. And then also, you know, so I'd work from like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then come home and then also like try to do all the other things that we're doing, all the other work of like establishing a farm and like taking care of 3 kids and, you know, doing the whole thing. So I, you know, for quite a while, I was just working 7 days a week and all the time. And that definitely can wear on it. I think that's one thing that maybe with a lot of homesteaders and farmers is probably one of the number one struggles I hear about is just trying to find the balance of time. Because most farmers and homesteaders actually nowadays have to actually have an off-farm other source of income to actually even help support the farm. Just because how things have been done and getting it established and getting fencing and getting livestock and feed. And it's an investment and it takes time and energy and stuff. So you definitely ended up tired, but I think it's really about, you know, trying things and then being willing to observe, you know, what cause and effect, what has happened. You know, hey, you know, we did this much meat this year. You know, maybe we don't think we need to do so much next year. Like, you know, we're even kind of like dialing back our production on numbers and things and we're doing and putting more focus on things like gardens this year. Figuring out what types of animals work for you, you know, and you don't really know what you like until you try it, you know, the way.
Yeah. What kind of animals do you have, by the way? And have you ever thought about selling some of that meat that you gloriously smoke?
Yes. So this last year we did chickens, turkeys, pigs, and sheep. Were the ones that we focused on. We do offer meat to members of our private ministry. That's one of the reasons we did the PMA, is to be able to not have to worry about, you know, government regulations
following
shit like that.
You guys are on a trust type of thing.
Yes.
Sort of.
So
it's not
it's similar. So it's in the private domain.
But
so,
you avoid the tax, you know, bullshit income or
any of the regulations, taxes, any of that stuff. So it's an unincorporated ministry. Yeah. So the way we founded it is our land, our dharma, our purpose in life is to be co-creators with the Creator. So like we very much found our ministry from an animist perspective, and our farming it's not just like farming for making money. It's not just like this is
that's
like
a way of life.
We see this like as our way of life. Like this is our dharma. This is what we're supposed to do. So we found it in that way. And when you do it as an unincorporated ministry, you have private members, and then whoever is a member can then have access to different things. So the answer to that is like yes. But to private members, and that's easy enough to like to handle. But yeah, we definitely do that as well.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, yo.
For balancing stuff, I agree with Brian in terms of trying like cause and effect things, like seeing what works for you and, you know, trying to figure out how you're going to fund things and then starting. I would probably start with maybe a couple things and master that. Because that's why we're dialing back. Yeah, chickens, highly sheep, recommend.
You know, definitely
sheep, so simple. Yeah. We kind of went hard, and that's why we're dialing back now.
Yeah.
But you know, we went.
You're outnumbered though, like hardcore.
Yes. Yes, but you know what? It's really, you know, they need water. They need somewhere to exist. Make sure they're not going to go mess up your neighbor's yard. You have to somehow contain them. But as long as they have water, some of them need food a couple times a day. But if you get on habits and routines and patterns with that, it kind of simplifies things. And for me personally, at first that was really what I needed to get me going. I'm kind of a flow all over the place person, so I needed that schedule at first to kind of get me stepping in line. But
You admittedly said that you're a little squirrely, which I thought was
yes.
It just made me.
I can be. Yes, I can be, and so I have to catch myself. And so having an actual schedule
It's not
helps
the worst
me.
thing. Like I don't see it as a negative thing though. It's like you're just like sporadic all over the place. I wanted to. You're like you're so energized and want to do so many things. But yeah, like
I had to train myself to be that way. I was not always like that.
Likewise, yeah. All right, you guys remind me of a couple. I don't know if you see the icon on the top right, Loveolution. They're out in Maine, and they've been doing their thing. They don't like have like a homestead, you know, farm type of situation, but you know, they're trying to live off the land as best they can, and you know, raising a kid consciously, and like they got him, you know, at 5 years old, listening to, you know, folks on the One Great Work Network, which I forgot to mention. Brian, you are on there.
Yes.
And I got a little thing for
I
that.
need to update it.
Maybe we'll get some more videos updated
fresh videos on there and stuff.
No pressure for me.
Yeah, it's all to the good.
Pressure. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But have you guys ever thought about but you guys already have, you know, some uploaded videos. I highly suggest your channel is Homestead
Home and Haven Farms.
Home and Haven.
The farm
Jeez,
stuff.
I'm sorry. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm hung up on the homestead word. Sorry,
okay.
And that's such a generic term, anyways. Sometimes
it is.
Yeah, but yeah, we're about almost at an hour and a half.
Sure,
that would be a good time to kind of.
Sure.
But yeah. Anything else you all want to go over, conclude on, revisit as far as what we discussed already? Like, we covered a lot, obviously, and like put a title on this is kind of funny, but yeah.
yeah.
Good luck.
Find something real triggering now. It's good, you know, you got to get him to click on it somehow. So.
I can make sure I say thank you for inviting us out on here.
Oh yeah, Brittany, it's been really, and Brian as well. Even though I've spoken to you a little bit more, Brittany, but yeah, being in contact, seeing, you know, some of your posts and like your ambition, some of the history you've had, and where both your guys' trajectory intertwine in such a wonderful way. It's really, really inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, fuck yeah. So, Home and Haven, I got that right?
Yeah, Home and Haven is actually where it started. We put farms on the end of our YouTube channel, but
okay.
Yeah, we are considering doing more under the Home and Haven name too for some general kind of information stuff. Because as you've seen, we're kind of diverse. We like all sorts of things.
Yeah. But that's what's up. And oh yeah, so my question was, were you guys considering possibly doing like workshops, like inviting people onto your property to kind of give them a tour, and it's not to make a whole lot of money, but you know, having that type of door open to like have that teaching
potentially
aside from their videos, which are great.
Yeah, potentially at some point. The place that we're at now probably isn't like the most
the best
for that, just because like our location and things, but we definitely plan on upgrading properties at some point here, and doing different types of educational things, you know, both within you know, teaching about like rotational grazing, like, you know, permaculture,
a lot.
You know, a lot. We have a lot of different interests in different areas and things and events we want to organize for different reasons. So,
we definitely, that gets me so excited. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
We definitely plan on hosting events of some sort at some point whenever we kind of like upgrade to the next property. You know, we have a variety of different things that we would like to do that with, but they all kind of do center around us being able to do our own type of events and be able to like show people like on the farm, like actually in person, like, hey, this is how it works. You can actually see the results from this, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't know when, but at some point, yes, we would love to do lots of different workshops. Probably going to start with online workshops, and whenever we can, in person too.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it reminds me of a woman who's kind of in network. Jeez, I forgot her name, but it's a beautiful one. But down in like Tomolca, California, they've had, you know, these gatherings of people for the local community, and then some of exactly along the lines of what you're talking about, which is really cool. And I was thinking about cruising by, but yeah, I'm just like, I'm been all over the place.
Yeah, you travel a lot.
More than I should, but yeah. But it's fun. I'm gonna be putting out more videos on cooking. I've been in different kitchens, which is kind of cool to kind of switch up the atmosphere. But yeah, just having a good awareness of food and being able to grow it on your own. So do you guys have a garden, by the way, or do you guys grow any
we're
of that?
working on getting that one up and going. I used to have one established here a few years ago, and then I moved, and our pasture and grass out here is like
taking over.
It's real intense.
Yeah.
It's great. It's crazy stuff. There's a reason why we really like the sheep.
Because they can knock it down.
We don't have to do anything with the grass. We just let it grow, and
then you can set it up,
and we eat the sheep, and it's easy.
But we are doing some stuff in buckets. We're trying to establish some new garden beds, and I did pre-prep in the fall buckets of dirt to compost down and overwinter. So we did plant some buckets.
But yeah, we have some
cool,
some beds that are getting established and things like that as well, that we're kind of working on getting the garden area back up and going this year, and you know, dialing back on as much of the meat production, and then kind of getting that other area established. You know, I've had other things like blackberries and elderberries and some things planted out here for I think it's like their 6th year or something that they're going on. So you know, they've been around, but yeah, we definitely want to expand on that area as well.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like things are growing in the right direction in many ways for y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for having us on, Derek. I really appreciate you inviting us out here for the discussion. And we're happy to talk about other topics whenever too. So.
Yeah, and we'll have you on with Leslie Powers soon enough on the good old Dissolving the Divide channel. Once again, there is the book that folks can check out. QR code if folks, you know, aren't watching this on their phone, and they can, but whatever. In conclusion, no. Yeah, wonderful friends, wonderful guests, wonderful conversations, and digest slow. And to each their own. We all understand natural law is king, and aligning to that at the best of our possibilities and capabilities is really what it's all about, and finding that unity through that type of conceptual community, if you will. But yeah, until then, yeah, Brian, Brittany, thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you.
Really had a great time with you all.
Thanks, Derek. We'll talk again sometime soonish.
For sure. Yeah, thanks everyone out there in listener land. We'll serve up something hot or cold. That'll be delicious soon enough. Take care. Peace.
Blessed as a hip-hop savior. My liver's leaving aftertaste, cause I kick so much fucking flavor. So run to your neighbor.
A dab of this, dab of that, not too heavy on the garlic. With just a touch of oregano.
I'll leave you with one word of advice. Finish your beans and rice.